I'm Eric Russell. I am out and about at Virginia Rep's production of Breast in Show with the cast and the writer of production. I am so excited to be here tonight. This show touched me deeply. So I want to start with first who you are and how you got involved with this fantastic, fantastic, powerful show. Let's start right here and work our way down. Tell who you are.
I'm Eileen Mithard. I am the person who conceived of this show. I didn't write it, but I conceived of it.
I'm Chloe Williams. I played Desiree, and Billy Christopher called me out of the blue, and I was so grateful to see his number on my phone. I didn't even check his voicemail to see what he wanted first. So Billy Christopher brought me to this project.
I'm Leinhaas-Cook, and I play Wendy, and same thing. Billy Christopher called me out of the blue, and it was a very pleasant surprise. I'm Jeanie Rule, and I play Shirley and a couple of others, Aunt Bonnie, and got involved and said yes pretty quickly when Billy Christopher asked me, because he's really good. And I love Carol Pearsall.
I'm Andrew Hamm, and I play Tim and Tom and Freddie and Pete's friend and a pompous German doctor.
How'd you get involved?
Once more, Billy Christopher. Billy Christopher calls and I come running.
Christopher bow.
Am I supposed to talk to that? I'm sorry.
Whatever's fine.
Hi. I'm Brittany Simmons, and BC emailed me last winter and asked me, and I was just like, yes, yes! I hadn't even read the script, and then when I read the script, I was super excited. I was like, yes, absolutely! So.
I'm Billy Christopher Maupin, the director. I became a part of the project when Carol Pearsall had the script, who produced it in partnership with Virginia Rep, and asked me if I would be interested in directing it. So I read it and said, yes, I would love to work on this piece.
I'm Kim Fox, musical director, and Carol asked me to do the show last fall.
Russell Rowland, Pete, and ditto, and I heard it was a Carol Pearsall show, so boom.
That's
boom. There. Yeah.
So I was saying this show touched me deeply because my grandmother was a breast cancer survivor from the 80s, and she had had a mastectomy in 83, and then had another one in the early 90s. Then she made it to the age of 98.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
really.
Warrior!
She was. Tell me how you conceived of this show. What got your gumption up to do this?
I wanted to do something that was important. I wanted to do something about breast cancer because I think it's the disease that I'm most afraid of getting. I also think it's a disease that nobody else should ever have to get again. My goal with the show is to create this show and to energize people enough that they decide that we can, we must, and we will eradicate breast cancer in our lifetime. I think that this is the legacy of our generation. I think that it's a baby boomer issue. I think that with more than 50% of the cases in people 62 and older, that this is our issue, and this is what we can leave for our children, that nobody else ever has to go through this.
Now, by a show of hands in the cast, and I want to, from the out here in the audience, how many people have known anyone with breast cancer?
everybody. Please.
There we go. I pulled a statistic from the Susan G. Komen website, and this is from 2009, that in terms of new cases of breast cancer, 1.2 per 100,000 men are diagnosed with breast cancer, and 125.7 out of every 100,000 women are diagnosed. And I just thought, wow, that's just still a staggering number. But this is one of the first shows I know that's dealt with men with breast cancer. So for your character, he's a husband and a father, and he's diagnosed. Talk about that in terms of your characters going through this whole, from the men's perspective, it's very different.
Yeah, it's and Eileen can talk more about this too, but just having a support group. We were talking about that with the women. It seems to be open dialogue, and it's something you can really sit with your gals and open up about. But with a guy and going in with his friend, it's not something that you can just open up about. And my character was actually based on a real man, which maybe Eileen can tell a little more about.
And the show, all the characters in this show are inspired by people. I did over real people. I did over 200 interviews with people across the country. patients, their spouses, medical personnel. And the character of Pete is based on a gentleman by the name of Peter Devereaux from Massachusetts. He is one of 90 Marines from Camp Lejeune who are called the Poisoned Patriots, who have had breast cancer, and they think it comes from contaminated water. They were recently featured on a piece with Nancy Snyderman on Rock Center a week or two ago on NBC, and we have a link on our website for that. But he is a father, he has a daughter, about 13 or 14. He has the most gorgeous blue eyes, and talking to him about breast cancer and about being a man with breast cancer and his challenges, and he is writing a book for other men as a support.
It's fantastic, because again, it's something that we don't hear about so often.
Right.
The other characters in the show, their roles to start off with. We have a grandmother, a single mom, and a woman who's very career driven, and all of a sudden those roles are reversed. So I want to hear from your perspective of your characters. Truly, where did you go to find that reversal? You've gone from being people of power and doing whatever, and now you're these, I don't want to say the word victim, but you've now developed cancer and your role has changed. How did you reconcile that with your character?
Well, for Shirley, having always been the mother hen and making sure everything was okay, it was very shocking in my working on trying to find Shirley, and I just felt that there's enough love in her family. This is all my imagination, that she, even though she knew her daughter was going to freak, that she got a surprise that her daughter became supportive and strong too. Sometimes you have to step back and let a kid go.
My experience was a little more personal. My mother died of breast cancer and was a very, very strong woman, not a career woman. She was a stay-at-home mom, but she was the regent of the DAR, and she just did it all. And just watching her, she was strong most of the time, but every now and then she would just have these vulnerable moments, and I just kind of drew it from her experiences.
For my character, I actually took a little bit from a nurse that took care of my grandmother. She didn't have breast cancer, but she was in Ohio, and I was here in Virginia, and she was recovering from a stroke, and she would call me every single day with an update on how her prognosis was and try to get her to talk to me and things like that. And so it really made me feel good being so far away, that there was someone there who just really cared enough to care about my grandmother and care about me to keep me in the loop. And trying to tie that into the character, Desiree, who has breast cancer and breast cancer survivor, sharing that with her patients in some way, maybe give them strength to know that you can get through this, and I'm here for you because I know what you've been through.
I think Chelsea is an interesting character in that she tries not to deal with it. I mean, obviously she's getting treatment and doing what she has to do, but so many times it's not about her. It's not about trying to fix this. It's almost a little bit, she feels a little guilty for getting sick because she's got so many other people to take care of. And I think, unfortunately, that doesn't help her. Like she can't heal, and I mean, obviously cancer takes over, but I think her healing process was even more hindered because she wouldn't care for herself, and she was always giving. I find her really fascinating, and it's just very interesting to think about and to try to work through someone that's just going to continue giving even when they really do need to be thinking about how to heal and how to address this issue.
Because she has a family member that comes to visit her who's just, you look awful, and she finds where they're just probably going, my kid has a birthday, and I thought that was such a great moment.
Even when Aunt Bonnie is kind of, Desiree and Pete are like, you need to get rid of her, and Chelsea makes it about Aunt Bonnie. I need to save you from Pete, and I think she's fascinating that way. She just gives everything until there's very little left.
Being that this is a musical, there's some fantastic songs here, and so I know Kim can answer but her favorite one being working with the group, getting these feelings out to make them such fantastic songs. But I love my oncologist. Just because I keep thinking having a parent and a grandparent who've been through traumatic illnesses and stuff, that I think having that one person, that doctor, makes a big difference.
I should also tell you that we vetted the show with 2 breast cancer professionals in Washington who came to the show in rehearsal, and everything in the show is accurate. And when I went to talk to one of them, the receptionist actually, somehow we got talking about my oncologist, and she says, "Oh yeah, it happens all the time." So it was really, so the things that are in here come from, an accurate place.
It was just a fantastic number. You really to your oncologist going, yeah. My other absolute favorite that really made me chuckle was Freddie's Prosthesis Emporium. And it's kind of fun to watch your character kind of bring joy to all these people, but then a kind of dignity when you have this one person. She's not ready for this. She doesn't think she is. And so, give me a little bit more about that. Tell me about Freddie.
Freddie is fun. It's very interesting to play both Freddie and Tim, because Tim, Wendy's husband, is very much like myself. I lost my mother to cancer that began as breast cancer, and I took care of her a lot when I was in 8th and 9th grade, and she was undergoing chemo and radiation, and she lost about 100 pounds and half of her stomach and 3/4 of her esophagus, and she got cancer again in 1991, and I delayed going from high school to college because I was so used to being the one who took care of her. And that's this feeling of, Tim is the same guy, he's this feeling of immense and complete paralyzing helplessness. And Freddie is exactly the opposite of that. It was very, very therapeutic, and he just insists that the way that you look is the way that you feel, and the way that you feel is key. And that sort of insisting on a positive attitude, and if you look fabulous, you will feel fabulous. It's just a lot of fun to play a character who, as my friend DJ said on my Facebook page, threw sass and wigs all over the stage.
From the music director perspective, there's some really fun, upbeat songs, but then there's a couple songs that are really pink. That one I really felt was a very strong, just emotional, but really true to the point, feeling song. How did you get them to bring out that? Because some songs could go one way or the other, going, how do you make some of that?
We're still playing with Pink.
Yeah, we are.
We are still.
I've run the gamut with Pink. I've ended it in tears. I've ended it, and opening night I changed it actually, and ended up getting angry. And every night it's different.
It is, and that's okay with me. I think the first part of it is very choppy. She's really angry, and then she's describing Pink is pretty, Pink is frilly, and I try to change the music accordingly. So it's a work in progress.
And the anger part of it comes from a woman that I interviewed in Washington who has started all the fresh farm markets. And 25 years later, having been a warrior for 25 years, she is still angry. And we felt that we had to put anger into the show, that it isn't all, this or that, but there is this real element of anger that needed to be represented.
Because Pink's become this very signature color.
Right.
You've got Race for the Cure, Sing for the Cure, you need a tote bag. And I know when I'm out shopping and I see, here's a bag of chips with a little pink ribbon, I'm going, is this really appropriate? Is this really paying, an authentic...
Especially when it's on Kentucky Fried Chicken, which is the worst.
And I'm thinking, how is this really supporting breast cancer?
Well, and I remember the first year that Yo Play did the pink lids, that they were audited afterward, and it turned out that they spent more on advertising for that campaign than ended up being donated to breast cancer research. So I'm speaking as the child of somebody who died of breast cancer, I am very, very suspicious of anything that puts a pink ribbon on it and purports to be supporting breast cancer as a result of that.
And unfortunately, in the research that I did, there is a real negative side and there's a really ugly side to some of this. And part of it is there is an organization called Think Before You Pink,
Right.
and it talks about the products that are absolutely, the things you shouldn't use that have succumbed to putting the pink ribbon on it because, unfortunately, it's preying on people's thinking they're doing good, thinking they're doing something when in fact they're not. Or, there are these agreements made between organizations we won't mention
Right.
and others that involve, a certain amount of revenue generation. And so, it is something, it's the ugly side of this topic where you have to actually look at what is really going
Yeah,
on.
you gotta do your homework.
Yeah.
Now, this is an entry for the Acts of Faith series. And so, Billy, give me a little background on how this was selected as an Acts of Faith piece.
It was, obviously there's so much faith in this piece, as some people, as it relates to religion and otherwise. But it was, Carol initially was like, this needs to be an Acts of Faith, and Eileen as well. And when we when we changed venues, we were still really adamant about keeping it within the time frame of Acts of Faith so that we still could tie in with those discussions and with that festival, which is really great. So that's kind of how that came about.
Because my grandmother, when she went through this, we didn't have the support groups, they didn't have that stuff. And she actually went for her mastectomy and was home in a few days with a sock shoved in her bra. And she was baking cookies and stuff. None of us knew. And she just said, well, I have faith that will carry me through and I will see my grandchildren grow up and all that. So I thought, wow. You use a term, instead of survivor, you use the word warrior. And I want to know, do you feel that survivor is a negative word or a positive word? And do you think warrior is a better word to use for people who go through breast cancer?
I don't think it's a strong enough word.
Survivor seems passive in contrast to the choice of the word warrior.
And it leaves out those who
Because
have
you're
not.
fighting to
Yeah,
survive.
it says what about the others?
Yeah.
Are
And
they
they fought
failures?
too, so we're all warriors.
Survivor to me sounds like a term a doctor would slap on something. Well, she made it. As opposed
She's
to someone
done.
that is
Don't have to worry about it
continually
anymore.
fighting and fighting not just for themselves but for others. Because and from talking to you and from meeting breast cancer survivors, that when they're going through it, it becomes about not just themselves making it through, but we need to stop this. So it becomes bigger, and so you're fighting not just for yourself but for everyone, so that we can actually stop breast cancer. And I think that's so much stronger than someone that, oh, you made it, So.
You go through the different stages. There are 4 stages of cancer, but then there's the different stages your characters go through. There's that denial, there's the anger, there's the bartering, and there's then the acceptance. For you performing the characters, which was the hardest for you, for your character? What moment did you have that, this is really harder than I thought it was going to be, or this part really touched me more at this stage for the character?
For me, it was Wendy needing to finish this brief and needing to make partner because she'd been working for it her whole career, and even breast cancer, she wasn't going to let it stop her until her husband said, "You're fighting for your life." That was a big moment for me.
Maybe from Desiree, I think, after having breast cancer, then having the realization that it's back and that she's got her patients, and seeing Wendy break down, realizing that it's still not even about her. She still has work to do, and she still has patients who look to her, and so it kind of, Billy Christopher said, you can't let them see you break, but I was like, but it was so hard. But so I tried to use that to push through because I wanted Desiree to be there for Wendy, so it just became about helping them.
I think that for Shirley, having that crush, as a grandmother, having this crush, I think it reminded her that she truly was alive and that she could do it. She could be the good warrior, and she took a lot of strength from both Wendy and Desiree in the scene where Wendy says, I've got to go, I've got a conference call at 3, and then Pete says, well, I can't believe it, all I can do is sit in my chair, and, and she goes, yeah, I don't have to sit in my chair either, I've got to see my grandchildren. So those are the things that keep you going, I think, when things are serious, and, outward looking, not just you.
What is one thing you want people to take away from this show? People to come to see it. What do you want them to come away with?
I want them to come away with the feeling that nobody should ever have to go through this. That this needs to be a national priority. That we need to, like President Kennedy said, that we would land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. I want this president or the next president to stand up and say, we can, we must, and we will eradicate breast cancer in our lifetime.
If people want to find out more about this project or being involved in breast cancer research, where can they go to find out more?
Breastinshow.org.
Fantastic. You guys have a powerful, moving show that really I connected with. And I know from listening to the audience laugh and stuff tonight, they connected with. So just thank you for giving us this story and sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If people want to get tickets for this show or find out more about Virginia Rep Billy, where can they go?
You can go to va-rep.org.
I am Eric Russell. I have been out and about at Virginia Rep's show, Breast in Show. Thank you again for having me here.
Thank you.
You never know what I'll turn up next, so tune in next time. See ya.